All right, welcome to the NGAdvocate podcast number 15. We're here, Viral and I are here with District 3 Commissioner candidate Steve Gailey. Steve, introduce yourself a little bit. Tell us a little bit of your background and a little bit of the history, because you was on the county commission before, and why you decided to run again.
Well, I served 2 terms from 2002 to 2010, and I terminated myself. I felt like at that time it was time for me to move on, drop back and kick and punt. I ran for chairman 10 years ago against Richard Higgins, and I got beat by less than 1% of the total vote in a countywide election. Right. So I had some people approach me this year, some of the older guys, older North Hall Republicans said, "Hey, we need to get you back in there, and we'd like for you to run." So I gave it a lot of thought, looked at what was going on, and said, we got a lot of issues, a lot of things to look at. I have the experience. I know where to look at things. I know where to look for things. I'm really pretty much an anti-government person. I don't like government intrusion into my life. We've got too much of it from the national level and now filtering into the local level. So I think I can bring something to the commission that the other 2 candidates I'm running against are fine people. I've talked with both of them, but I think I can bring some experience into this role and try to protect what's going on in this North Hall and East Hall district.
Right. Well, North Hall and East Hall, it's totally different than the rest of the county. And a lot of people don't understand that. It's like going from North Georgia to South Georgia.
Oh, definitely. You're just you're more or less in a rural character up here. When you look at what's happened to South Hall over the years, which we kind of figured that was going to happen. Of course, we don't have sewer in the majority part of this district. The only sewer approaching this district is what runs out Highway 60 on Thompson Bridge Road that goes to the poultry plant over there, right, and up 365. When we made the agreement and purchased the sewer from Gainesville in 2008, it cost us $14 million for 1 million gallons capacity. That sewer, in my mind, and everybody else on the commission's mind at that time, was to be dedicated purely for, well, not residential growth, but industrial, commercial, business type growth that we very much need. And it's been successful so far in supplying that. But now we've got the issue of the residential component that we just don't need on that sewer. Because right, we're not going to get another 1 million gallons for $14 million. I can assure you that.
No. And you look at, in case in point, those 600 something apartments and townhomes they're building right next to the new Kroger that they put up there at Price Road. That's a lot of capacity that's going to go into that sewer that wasn't accounted for.
And a lot of that sewer capacity also, when it was purchased, some of it was designated for South Hall. Right. So I don't really know how much capacity is left on 365. But when you take with what they're doing, manipulating the UDC code to the point on the density level. Now, I don't have a problem with houses being on half-acre lots on sewer. That would be basically 2 per acre. But the density that we're getting in these projects is 3 and 4 houses per acre. So you're putting 300 homes on roughly 100 acres of land. Well, you look at the impact to the system, the sewer system, and if you calculate it by EPA standards, EPA says about 150 gallons a day per person per dwelling. Now, I think that's probably a little bit high, but let's just use 100 gallons. So you've got 400 gallons a day in a 4-person home using sewer on any given day. Well, you multiply that by 300. Well, that's quite a bit of capacity per day that you're going to have. And we just don't have the capacity up 365, in my opinion, to continue to allow this residential component the way it's going through right now.
Right. And one reason that I want to go back a little bit and tell you've got an environmental engineering background, and how you're real familiar with a lot of this stuff.
Yeah, I have been in the environmental business. My background is in engineering, but I got into the environmental business designing wastewater systems mainly for the food and beverage industry. And I've worked all over the world with this. So my background in sewer is by far probably a lot greater than the people we got running the programs in Hall County right now. Right. I just know what it cost. And it's a big expenditure cost-wise.
It is. And right now it's falling on the taxpayers instead of these developers, you know, and that's a big strain on property taxes and why a lot of the stuff's going up. I mean, we've got to find a way to kind of balance that out, because we want some growth, but it can't all fall on the taxpayer.
Well, I think you got to go back and just look at it realistically, like when I was in there. Sewer lots, like I said, were 2 per acre. Okay. So if you had 50 acres, you're going to have 100. You could get 100. Technically, well, you wouldn't get that much when you take out the infrastructure, which you're going to lose 15% to roads and sidewalks, because that's a quality of life issue in living in any subdivision type atmosphere. So you're going to get, say, 85 homes on 50 acres under sewer. Now you're not going to get but about 40 homes on septic tank with water, because you're looking at a 1 acre density. And that's pretty much the rule of thumb that I worked with my previous 2 terms on the commission, was dealing strictly with and sticking to that regard on that. I mean, I would have developers come and say, I've got 100 acres of land. I have city water. I'd like to get 100 homes. Well, you're not going to get 100 homes, because you're going to get about 85 homes, because you're going to lose 15% of it for roads, streets, and sidewalks.
And I think that's why we're seeing a lot of these people go to townhomes and apartments, because in some places we're getting 7 to 8 units an acre.
Yeah, some of that townhome atmosphere, that component that's part of the UDC, like I said, that's got to be totally reworked to a point that we just can't have that. I mean, we can't have that kind of density. And in South Hall, it's already happened. You know, I voted for the Dale Webb project, which is that senior community down in South Hall. And this density was about 2 units per acre. And I really had a hard time I was actually the swing vote on that. I had a hard time voting for that, because down there at that time, it's a great development. It serves its purpose. Those people are no burden to the school system or anything like that. But residential just doesn't pay its way. Now, it's probably paying its way a lot more now, considering, you know, what's happened with everybody's taxes. So the reevaluations, mine is doubled. I mean, the nice thing is I'll turn 70 a year from this May, and I can file for the school tax exemption, which is going to save me a boatload of money on my taxes.
60%, I think, right?
It's going to cut my taxes by about $2,800 a year.
Right.
You know, and but when you get back to the nature, everybody knew the corridor was going to develop, and now you've got the inland port getting ready to start up next month. We don't have really an aspect that's going to be. I know they said it's not going to add any more trucks. It's not going to do this. Well, I just got to call a foul on that, because I'm just going to tell you right now, I'm figuring about 800 trips a day.
That's a minimum
on 365 than what's on there right now. And I know people said, oh, it's not going to have any impact at all. Well, it's going to have a big impact. And that road is a very dangerous road.
How do they say that with a straight face, that it's not going to have any additional impact? You're bringing in a literal port.
I do not have any idea I don't have any idea how anybody can make that kind of comment, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Steve,
let me ask you this real quick. So while we're on the subject of sewers and stuff, when's the last time for Hall County or the city of Gainesville, what was the sewer system evaluated of needing improvements, of possibly needing a new new lines or, you know, however that stuff
Well,
works?
Hall County, we also purchased a plant in South Hall that was built by a developer. We purchased that in my term in office, and it was at that time 750,000 gallons a day. We purchased it for around 11 million. Now it has been upgraded. It's under an upgrade portion, I think, right now to go to about 2 million gallons a day. Now, as far as what Gainesville's got left on their capacity, I'm really not sure. By far, you know, Oakwood uses Gainesville. Flowery Branch has their own plant. Oakwood doesn't have a sewer plant. They basically buy capacity from Gainesville. That's how they operate their sewer. Now, purchasing the Wheeling plant that we purchased in South Hall, of course, took a lot off of the capacity that we had allocated for South Hall off of that 1 million gallons. I just can't find the numbers as to how much of the capacity has been used. I don't think right now anything's further planned on the sewer system that's intact. I don't think the county, has any plans that I've read to make any more extensions on the sewer. Most of the extensions on the sewer up there are being done by the developers with these projects.
Gotcha.
And there is tap fees associated with that. I don't know if what we're charging on the sewer tap fees is covering the initial cost that we had in the purchase. Because if I look at it from a standpoint, you know, basically you're looking at $14 a gallon is what it costs you. The next purchase is going to be probably, I would say, double that.
Wow.
And I'm pretty sure that will be done one day. But, you know, right now we don't have I don't know what we got in our sewer fund. I don't know how any of that's being used or what. The South Hall plant, though, was modified in the last couple of years to upgrade it. And it's a direct discharge plant now instead of, it used to be a spray field, like where you would spray the treated wastewater onto pasture land and cut hay off of it. But now it's a direct stream discharge on it. But as far as what plans they have for the future, I don't know of any plans to bring sewer, what I call past the Long Street Bridge, into that section of 129 into North Hall. Because if we started getting that here, sewer up in this area, we'd be facing the same thing they're facing in South Hall.
Yeah, no, and you know, they're fixing to build that big shopping center right there at the corner of Nopone and Jim Hood. And
well, they've got one plan to go there.
That's going to be all septic, right?
Yeah, it's going to be on septic system. Yes, it will be on a septic system there for that facility. You know, to come in and build, give you an example. Say I want to put a restaurant on 129. Okay. Say I want to put in a Kelly's on 129. For a restaurant that size and seat that many people, just for the septic system for it would require probably around seven acres of land.
Good Lord.
Yeah. So it's all done by seating and, you know, how many seats you got, and they got a compilation of how they determine how many gallons each seat's going to use a day.
Right. Well, see, and that's what got me is when I looked at the Rochester plan, say when he wanted to build that, before he pulled it off the docket, the thesaurus. How's he going to plan on serving that off sewer?
Well, I don't think it was. I really can't call it sewer. I call it community septic system. Is what
that's what I mean off the septic.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't have a lot of faith in those things, even though these people are having to put bonds up, you know, with the state, because it's going to be permitted basically through the EPD.
Right.
which is the Environmental Protection Division in Georgia, which controls all this. Those things are notorious for fail. I think they're great if people adhere to the conditions and the ways that they need to be on a system like that. I mean, I'll give you, for example, if you're on a septic system, the last thing you need in your house is a garbage disposal.
Right.
And tell you why, because when you grind that up, it's solid. And it just goes to the bottom and sits. That's why these restaurants are required to have these series of grease traps so they can be pumped. It's a form of pre-treatment. Even prior to going into a sewer system, they're required into a public sewer system. They're required to have these grease traps. But the thing that can mess up these community systems more than anything is the loadings that people just don't understand. I mean, I'm sure there's people that's got garbage disposals on septic tank systems, but instead of pumping your septic tank, every 5 years like it's recommended, I would say that you probably need to pump it about every 2 years.
Right.
Because of the solids buildup. And it's the same way with the sewer system to an extent too. Treatment cost. You got a lot of horsepower, you've got a lot of treatment cost, you've got a lot of chemical cost in these plants. So, and that's all a direct loading too, but if we can, I'm not anti-growth, I want you to understand that. I'm a property rights advocate too. But if people have land and they want to sell it, they want to develop it, it's got to be done in the right way. I mean, I know land's expensive, and these developers are using the term, well, we got to have this much houses per acre to justify the cost per acre.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't follow that either, to be honest with you. I can't. I mean, you look at what it costs to build a house.
Yeah.
In today's dollars, I would have a hard time even stipulating a home size like I used to put, minimums of 2,100 square feet.
Yeah, it was feasible.
Don't know if you could do that this day and time, because I think right now in the house that I live in, it's just myself and Wendy here, 4,000 square feet. We utilize basically about 3 rooms in the house, and one of them I'm sitting in right now, which is my kitchen. And we walk through the living room to go back to the bedroom. I don't need this big of a house, but when I look at the cost I could sell this house and do well. But when I look at the cost to build something along, say, 2,000 square feet, 2 bedroom, 2 master suites, open floor plan, you're looking at $200 a square foot.
Yeah, that's just insane. Where it was 114 a square foot less than 6 or 7 years ago.
Right. So these costs those costs, I think eventually will come back down and get more reasonable. But I think ever since COVID, we're still in the disarray of everything went on with COVID. Everybody everything now seems to be some kind of COVID, some kind of, and of course, I think sometimes with the tariffs are definitely affecting the cost of a lot of these products.
Yeah, it is.
And it's been passed on to the consumer.
Well, it's got to now. Like a 10% tariff, a lot of these companies can eat that and not pass it on to consumers. But when you start getting into 30, 40, 50, 60% tariffs, you just, companies can't absorb that.
No. And I had a guy ask me the other day, is there ever going to be anything built in Hall County that us senior citizens, say 1,500 square feet, 1,500 square feet that we can move into and downsize? That's the direction we need to be looking at going if we're looking at things from that nature.
For affordable housing, yeah.
More affordable housing, but you got to look at the impact on the schools. I mean, when you look at the two things that's already been approved up there off of 365, residential component wise, I think are around 700 homes, and they've already been approved.
Right.
So that's 1,400. I'd say a minimum 1,400 more kids going to hit the school system.
Yeah.
So you got to look at everything. When you make these decisions sitting on the commission, you got to look at the impact it's going to have on the school system. Even though I feel like sometimes they think they got that enormous amount of money and they say they'll handle it. But 1,400 more kids in the school system in that area is going to require another elementary, middle school, and another high school between East Hall and North Hall. I can see no way that doesn't happen.
Well, the Schofield's already angling for that too. We caught that last year at the meetings. He's already talking about buying land out in Lula and over out 52.
Well, I think my understanding is they purchased some property up in that area. I don't know how big of a tract it is, but Lula's elementary school, I think, is probably one of it's definitely as old as Walker Mountain is. And
yeah, I think they're the two oldest left in the county, I think.
Yeah. And I think that, definitely going to be a new elementary school built eventually, I would hope, in that area. I know they've made modifications. The Walker Mountain campus area could grow. I don't think Lula has as much property as they have down on the Walker Mountain campus, as far as to be able to expand on the same piece of property. But, none of the fact in case is, this UDC code has got to be rewritten. It's convoluted with so many things,
right?
That the normal person just don't understand. We came out with all these designations, designations. Well, why complicate the matter? Yeah. But I just do not agree with the density that's allowed in certain aspects of that UDC code. I just do not agree with it.
Well, the way it's written now, it's just so confusing and it's so long and there's so much in there that's not necessary.
Well, yeah, you could probably throw half of it away and it wouldn't make a bit of difference.
No. Not getting
I sometimes get the feeling that when they did this last UDC code, I feel like they were adopting maybe what Gwinnett County has or DeKalb County has. And we're not Gwinnett and DeKalb County, and I don't want to be Gwinnett, DeKalb County. No. So we've got to simplify the things. We want to make sure that even the business type growth that we get in this area is good business growth. Now, a lot of this is speculative. A lot of these warehouses we see going up, a lot of it's speculative, especially on 365 of what's going to happen with the
port.
Yes, with the port. But I do believe that they're going to find out probably when the port gets full capacity, they're going to have to do something with 365, 985. I don't think there's any doubt about it. Definitely going to have to be some interchanges and things done on 365.
Yeah, bypass roads or something.
Yeah, there's going to have to be some things done because I'm telling you, I think the traffic is going to be tremendous, especially going north out of the port.
Oh yeah, no, definitely, and that's already dangerous up through that way anyway. I think they said.
Oh yeah, you can. If you're at if you're at 52 traffic lights, you better make sure that you're looking. Even if you got the green light, you better make sure you're looking.
You got that right.
Because
it's just dangerous no matter if you got the red lights up or not. It's just I hate even. I used to love going up J Moore several times a year during the summer to get fresh. I don't even like going up there anymore because it's bumper to bumper and it's like you're freaking in a NASCAR race when you're going up through there.
Well, yeah, and I think we see that on a lot of the roads. I don't know when I know they're still planning on acquiring property for the 4-lane up 129 past Long Street, out of Gainesville.
Right.
All the way up to where the 4-lane, the part I call partial 4-lane, it runs for about 3 miles. I think that's going to be the next phase of that. But even the traffic on 129 in Clarksbridge Road is dangerous, and it's a lot of traffic.
Well, Clarksbridge Road, I counted 32 cars the other morning before I could pull out of my road, and that's nothing. before.
Yeah, and I'm really surprised at the people that are on 129 South that turn left here in Claremont onto Clarksbridge Road
Right.
and take Clarksbridge Road instead of just going down 129. You know, I very seldom ever take Clarksbridge Road.
Right. Well, it can't handle all that traffic. I mean, it just can't. And going back to 365, I know you and I talked about it, and I have with other people. When y'all ran the sewer up there, the intention was to keep all commercial building on the interstate side of the railroad track.
Yes. And I got, you know, last week's meeting on the Kegel Road, that denial, I think, was the proper thing to do, even though, I mean, I hate to say it, it's a little 28-acre tract that that's probably of no use other than that reason. But the problem is, how are you going to keep the truck traffic off of Kegel Road? You're not.
Exactly.
In Kegel Road, all the way through there is it's narrow, windy, curvy, and hilly.
Oh yeah.
You get down past where the port is, you know, then it'll start to miles down there. So I think that, you know, what hurts that piece of property is, of course, it abuts the railroad track. It's kind of like a little island sitting out there, but it's all definitely residential across the road from that side. So I do agree with their decision on the denial on that parcel. I think everything industrial commercial should access off of 365.
Yeah, no, that's the only safe way to do it. The
Right.
only smart way to do it.
Yes.
Especially with all those lake properties. I mean, you can't kill that property values and stuff from people that's invested in all that stuff.
And it's the noise and the traffic also.
Yeah.
I mean, I live on Main Street in Claremont, and it's pretty good road traffic wise. I mean, it doesn't have a lot of traffic on it. It's surprising to me though, there's people that would turn off on the northern end of this road where it dead ends, well, it doesn't dead end, but crosses 129 at the White County line, that would turn off just to drive through Claremont and get right back on 129 South.
Right.
You see them do it all the time, you know?
Yeah.
Well, I want to hit back on the UDC, Steve. When you were in office, I don't know when the last UDC was revised. You know, as I guess you could say a part-time developer myself, I applied for a data center usage out in by the airport with the city of Gainesville, and then we were also looking for stuff around Hall County. At that time, the new UDC hadn't passed, and our old UDC or the zoning codes were just so outdated. So I thought this was going to be in the right direction of updating our UDC development codes, our zoning codes, and allowing way more uses than, I think it was like 3 pages of different zoning districts and what's allowed in there, what's not allowed in there. At what, having all of these steering committee members, quote unquote, even with all of that, and the time and the money that's been invested in redoing this UDC, where do you think it went wrong? Is it just too many chefs in the kitchen type situation?
Yeah, I think that you've got to have more than just what I call developers and people like that on those committees. You've got to have input from the average Joe citizen like Chris. It needs to be a better representation. And really what the UDC code does, it kind of drives to what you are looking for, as far as even your business type growth. I know that when I was in there, I would see just metal buildings being put up, and I'm going, I don't like the looks of that. And actually, they adopted the Gateway Corridor standards when I pushed for that. I wanted something a little. It didn't hurt. It doesn't cost that much more money to add some stone or something to break up the looks of these, pre-engineered manufactured buildings, which most everything is built that way because it's the most economical way. And something had to be done to make things look better. I mean, because you can drive in certain parts of the county and you don't want to see that all over the county. Take it down an Atlanta highway, for instance, I think that when you're dealing with the different type things, and of course, this data center issue is such a new issue.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think a lot of it is people just understanding, what that's all about. Now, do I feel like they probably have in my opinion, they would be the least cumbersome of any type thing you could have. I mean, you're not talking a lot of people. They do employ people, but you're not talking a lot of people. I think the biggest concern people have with them is, okay, what's it going to do to our power? And I do know that they do use, a lot of water to keep them cool.
Mm-hmm.
So, but they can be loop systems to where that water can be reused.
Right.
I mean, in these cooling towers and things. I think when somebody comes in with a plan for something like that, they definitely need to have those facts in order as to what it's going to have, what impact it will have on the community as far as utilities go.
Right.
Sure.
Probably the least obtrusive use of anything is just the building basically sits there. I mean, you can look at these old AT&T buildings where the towers, still, there's one on 52 over in Lumpkin County still sitting out there. It's just a huge concrete building is what it is. I think the guy that told me of AT&T said those walls and that thing were like 12 inches thick, and they got cooling towers on it, to keep it cool. Now, of course, now they're not really doing that way anymore, but as we move into what we call the new wave of how we communicate and everything, those are going to be necessary tools.
No, they are. And I've done a lot of research on it, and the water thing's just a myth. If a data center uses 1 million gallons a day, that's a drop in the bucket. Every hour the dam's open, they release 360 million gallons of water.
Your typical poultry plant uses kill plant. The slaughter plant, for instance, is going to use over 1 million gallons a day, and there's several in the Gainesville area using probably 1 million, 1.5 million, maybe 2 million gallons a day of just for that. Now that water, of course, is pre-treated. What I do to get it, what we call it, to get it to sewer standards, then it's discharged to the sewer. Then, of course, it goes back into the lake.
Right.
But a data center is really a closed loop type system. Really what they're losing per day is through evaporation.
Right.
Off the cooling towers. They don't have they don't have a charge or anything.
In the age of misinformation and the fear mongering and stuff, I think a lot of and I personally blame rate changes, rate increases on inflation as a whole, as a general thing. It's data centers are a great scapegoat to kind of, hey, we didn't do this, we didn't print all this money to cause inflation to where your rates are through the roof. Does it have a little bit of effect on it? Absolutely. But a lot of these guys, they're using industrial rate power, which is they have the option to curtail power and run only when it's economic, makes economic sense to do so.
Right.
Or they're running on backup power, or a lot of them are starting to build their own power plants just because they're, sick and tired of having to battle these small issues like that, to where they're not even connected to our grid anymore, and say, we have nothing to do with your power. We make our own power. We use our own power. That's it.
And I think where we go with that is there's just a lot of miscommunication out there.
Yeah.
A lot of miscommunication out there. I mean, it's like people upset about the ice facility, down in Oakwood. Well, first thing is you're not going to tell the federal government what they're going to do, and
Exactly.
and they're going to do it. And you could take the avenue where we're going to shut your water off or we're going to shut your sewer off. Well, they'll just truck water in and haul sewer off.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
Or they'll buy more land and build their own enclosed
Right.
system, you know.
Yeah. I mean, do I like that necessarily? No, but it's just a part of, you know, what we're dealing with right now. I mean, it would have been nice to know the federal government was interested in a warehouse and pay that much for you. You know, it almost make you want to go to the bank and say, hey, I got a deal for you. I mean, let's go
68 million.
loan me the money and I'll give you some good interest, because the government's going to turn around and give me 6-7 times what I paid for it, you know. And,
You got that right. 68 million for an $8 million property.
yeah. And really, when we get back to the data center issue and everything, I think it's going to get to the point, you know, with all the uproar that we're hearing all over the country, you know, about the data centers. I think the government's going to eventually, the federal government's going to intervene in that and squash some of these things going on, because I think it's totally understanding that we're going to have these things, because it's the way we communicate. It's like what we're doing right now, you know.
Yeah. Well, and you'd rather the data centers be here than in China or Bangladesh or you know, somewhere where they've got rogue governments and you don't know what the hell's going on.
Yeah, and
I don't know. At this point, I'd rather them be in China than our rogue government.
Yeah, we got a plan on right now. Oh, now with the UDC, you mentioned, you know, what the percentage should it be? Mostly the percentage, like everyday citizens or lawyers or doctors or.
Well, I think you've got to have a mix of people. I think you've got to have a mix of people on there. And what I mean, it doesn't need to be made up by a bunch of lawyers. It doesn't need to be made up solely as developers. You need a good mix of the people, you know, that's in the county, you know, and I think that the people who live here should have more of a say-so on the land use plan. I mean, I really do. I don't think that I haven't talked to anyone that really disagrees with me from the standpoint of how I feel about managed growth. And what I mean by managed growth, we've got to, this density is the big impact on everything. I mean, I've talked to people who are just totally anti-growth that do realize that people do have certain property rights to do things with their property. There's still a lot of vacant land up here in the area of North Hall that I live in. Even you look between here and East Hall, you know, over in the Lula area, one of the largest, you know, you take the Glades property, which is huge. That's probably the biggest swath of acreage it's owned by one family in the county.
Right. Running with Austrian royalty or whatever.
Right. Yes. I know that Clemens Goritz, who was a friend of mine from Austria, that his father owned all that property, and there was two brothers, and unfortunately Clemens got killed in, I think, 2008 in a snow skiing accident in Austria. And I know that there was plans on the table at that time to actually, it was going to be, from the concept plans that I saw at that time, was a small city between here and Lula. I'm talking about, it was going to be golf courses, high dollar homes, things along that nature, you know. But now his wife is in control of all that right now, and she has no interest in doing that, from the last conversations that I had with her. But something will be done with it one day, guys.
Yeah.
And, you know, I know we looked at building our own sewer plant up in the North Hall area at one time. Right. It's just so expensive to build a sewer plant. I mean, you're talking, I would say, the neighborhood of $21 million, $25 million for a 1 million gallon capacity plant. So you can pretty much, if it's 2 million gallon, you can almost double that.
Mm-hmm. Right. I mean, it's not getting any cheaper anytime soon either.
Oh, no, it's not. But I think that the concept of going back to what we had in the, basically in the comp plan in UDC code when I was there, 2 dwelling units per acre on sewer, 1 dwelling unit per acre on septic, and 1.5 acres dwelling, for a dwelling unit on a well and a septic system, which Georgia's gonna, that's gotta, with the well and stuff, that's where Georgia kicks in with their rules and regulations as to the settings on that. I mean, I live here in Claremont on a corner lot with right at 1 acre of land. And but when I look at a football field and I envision roughly 2 houses on sewer sitting on a football field, okay?
Right.
Then you're looking at 1 house on septic and city water sitting on a football field. It's a quality issue, I think. Also, we still got a lot of mini farms up here, people that have what they call mini farms that could be anywhere from 3 to 7 acre tracts. I know my aunt and uncle, it's still in their families, a big, huge portion of property there on Mount Vernon and 52. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think there's still about maybe 600 or 700 acres left in that area over there. Now, they did sell off some years ago what we call large lot subdivisions that came right off of 52, and the smallest tract was 3 acres and the largest was 7 acres, all the way from actually Mount Vernon Road to the Lumpkin County line. But we still have a lot of roads up here. We don't have, water's not everywhere up here in North Hall either.
Yeah, no. Yeah.
It's not. We have a lot of roads that does not have public water on them. But you bring the beast with a lot of things when you bring in water like that. Your density's going to change for potential subdivisions. When you bring in sewer, it's going to change. But this 3.5 to 4 houses, per acre. These houses are just right up against each other. Eave height might be 5, not even 10 foot apart. I wouldn't want to live that way. And I don't think most people want to live that way. I think they're forced into having to live that way.
Right. Now, when we look at, and they are forcing you to live that way. And, before we get into like the 30-year, 40-year long development plan, I want to ask you, how can the county fix this nonsense of when they approve a project and they tell the builder or the developer that they're going to have to widen the road or do this or do that, and then they hem-haw around about it, they don't do it for 3 or 4 years, and the county finally gets pissed off and said, we'll pay for it. Well, that's by design.
Well, and first thing is you don't let them proceed with the development until they've got their infrastructure part done. Do you understand?
I understand that, but yeah,
I mean,
they always seem to
if it's a turn lane that they've got to put in, or whatever, the DOT on special state road is going to dictate a lot of that, depending on the size of the development.
Right.
I've seen them apply that in cases I didn't think it was necessary. There's a small subdivision on 52 over here between here and Lula that's got maybe 30 homes in it. And they required a center turn lane and a decel lane coming into that subdivision. Yeah, it kind of, really, I thought a little overkill. But it's funny how they apply things in certain places that don't apply in others. But now, as far as the county goes, they can make sure that developer's doing that infrastructure prior to ever getting a certificate of occupancy or anything for those homes.
Right. Well, there's just a big one off Blackjack Road and over in that area.
Oh, yeah, that's a mess down there.
Well, they had that big sharp curve on that road. I can't remember the name of it. Comes off. And Kathy Cooper finally got pissed off and told them and got the county commission to agree with it. They'd pay for the whole thing.
Yeah, I'm not much into spending taxpayers' money on something that's benefiting a developer.
And that developer knew it when he went in, and he agreed to pay for the
And I know the one you're talking about. Yes, they should have. You know, the county has avenues to make to assure that they do what they agree to once these conditions are set.
Right.
And you should they should be enforcing those.
Right.
I mean, it's like somebody coming in and agreeing that, hey, yeah, I agree with the sidewalks. I do all this, I do all that, and I do all this. I always felt like I instituted the sidewalks in these subdivisions with curb and gutter streets because I felt like a community needs to be linked. I never liked kids out really playing on the street, riding their bikes in the street when they could be on a sidewalk doing it or something like that. That's a quality of life issue. And if little sidewalks going to determine whether you do that project or not, then you don't need to be doing that project.
Right. And that shouldn't fall on the taxpayer. Exactly.
No.
It should be on the developer.
No, but you'd be surprised at the ones that'll cry baby about, you get 4 foot of sidewalk that might be 150 feet
Yeah.
in front of a house or 125 feet, like it's gonna break them.
No, yeah, I know. I mean, they just
It's
had no,
amazement. And I know concrete's expensive now, but still the point is it's built right into all that's built right into the cost of the house.
for the house and the land.
And I don't care if it's a subdivision with 4,000 square foot houses or a subdivision with 1,500 square foot houses. It's a quality issue. Why should somebody that maybe can't afford a 4,000 square foot house that lives in a 1,500 square foot house still not have the same good quality way of life that you're going to have?
And a lot of these commissioners and people, they think just because they're, say, 1,600 square foot homes that it's going to devalue other properties. It's not if you build them the same way.
It's the quality of the house you build.
Yeah, it's not the size.
Yeah, I mean, you can make a 1,500 square foot home look just as good aesthetically as you can a 4,000 square foot home. You can. It's the quality, and that's what people I think want. You need to give them the bang for their buck. Some of this stuff I see the way it's thrown up now and how it's done. I'm kind of like, well, I don't know about that. I mean, this day and time, brick is not as big as hardy board and stuff like that.
Right.
I mean, there's ways to make, what I call these cottage houses just as appealing as these 4,000 square foot houses.
Well, and realistically, you look at most of these huge houses, they ain't got 1,500 square foot of livable space anyway. Most of it's vaulted ceilings and wasted space.
Yeah, and that depends on, I guess, what you're looking for and what you want, from a standpoint of, what you're looking at. I mean, we've got gated communities around here that the houses are tremendous in size,
Oh, yeah.
I would hate to know what their tax bills are a year. I mean, I know my brother told. I mean, he started out with a pretty small house up there. One had full basement under it. It was built 30, 40 years ago, or longer, and he's kind of just added to it and built around it. He's got a pretty big place up there, but his tax bill is double what mine is. And which now, of course, he's got 30 acres too. But the thing is that just give them the quality. And I'll give you a fine example. I don't know how y'all feel about this or whatever. God knows, what do we need so many apartments for?
Exactly.
I mean, I know there's not that many really being done, quote, in what we call unincorporated county, but I look at downtown Gainesville now, and to what I vision, which probably won't be here to see it, what it's going to look like in 20, 25 years.
Oh, yeah. Well, history tells you those apartments and condos like that, within 20 years, they end up being dilapidated. They change owners and they just don't hold their quality and the resale.
Yeah. So I just see, I know people need places to live, and the hospital, of course, is a big driving force with what they're talking about housing wise. We've got so many traveling nurses now, especially at Northeast Georgia Medical Center. I mean,
oh yeah,
I mean, I've got a whole upstairs up here with 2 bedrooms, a bath, and a living room. Doesn't have a kitchen, but it's just closed off. I could probably rent that for $700 or $800 a month to a traveling nurse.
Yeah, and that's on the cheap end.
Yeah, but moving on with the stuff. Yeah, we've got problems. We've got issues that are going to have to be dealt with and directed, and the commission is going to have to take a hold on fixing this.
Steve, as far as talking about issues right now, what's some of the top 3 most pressing issues that you see with the counties facing, or possibly even the city, et cetera?
I think the biggest issue we've got going on right now in the county is infrastructure. We don't have the infrastructure to support what's being done.
Mm-hmm.
Second thing is this UDC code's got to be changed. I mean, especially the residential component is going to have to be really looked at. Like I said, the county's only grown by 50,000 people in 16 years, guys. That's not a tremendous residential growth. But as we have businesses moving in with expansions, housing is going to be needed. I think you can look at what's happening in Habersham County now, in South Habersham County, with some of the projects being proposed up there. Seems to me we got one developer coming in, and I just keep hearing the same name all the time on everything, and that's kind of what gets me. You're not.
What's the name?
Well, I see a lot. I don't know anything about them, but I see a lot of cook stuff, on the commercial and the residential side.
It's our local DR Horton builder.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm not saying they build bad stuff or anything like that, but back in the days when I was in there, you were dealing with what we call a local developer. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Not a nationwide deal.
So Cook is local. Cook's is, I believe, Keith Cook and his brother.
They just bought that building across from right there at the old food line in Oakwood at Black.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, I'm not saying anything bad about them or anything. It's just that
they're everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah, they're everywhere. Matter of fact, that my son lives in a subdivision right outside of Charlotte that was what I would call it was a Cook development. Now I don't know if it's the same Cooks or what.
They're big. No, they're based here, but they're big.
But back in my days, we dealt more with the developers one-on-one. I mean, developers would come to me and say, "Hey, I want to look at doing this," and I go, "No, okay, maybe, or this is what you got to do to get to do this." And I don't think we have enough of that going on the commission right now either. And you've got to, and I know everybody gets back to the point. I think there should be respect on the commissions. We're all elected, okay? And I know when I first got elected, I probably wouldn't, the first time I went in, I wasn't the most popular guy. I mean, some of the people on the commission really at that time would rather seen somebody else come in other than me. But you work it out, because you're not going to agree on everything, but you got to have respect. I mean, and I've seen this time after time after time, especially concerning Greg, who's sitting in this seat right now, is, Greg should know the pulse of the people in this area. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And knows what they want. But just to blatantly go around, if he makes a motion to deny something, then just blatantly go around and make a motion to approve it and give no reason as to why they felt that way. If I'm sitting there and they do me like they've done Greg, I'm going to be asking all 3 of them, or who it may be, okay, I want to know your reasoning behind making that decision. Give me a reason.
And it should be public record, yeah.
And I want it done in a public meeting, not behind closed doors, because I was notorious for calling out things when I was on the commission before. I mean, goodness gracious, Tom Oliver and I, he was the chairman at the time. We loved each other one day. We hated each other one day. You know what I'm saying? But we had an understanding of the way that we did work together on things. Tom used to say to me, "Are you going to embarrass me in a meeting today?" And I said, "Well, you don't do anything stupid, I'm not. And if I do something stupid, then you embarrass me, you know." But the thing is that you don't see that kind of really open talk.
You don't. They just.
Well, I think a lot of these commissioners are kind of scared in the day of social media of getting called out and pretty much, you know, trolled on social media. And
The best thing is, if you can't take that kind of heat, Merle, you don't do it. You
no,
don't
absolutely.
run.
I agree with you. I agree with you.
I'm gonna step away just a second, grab my drink.
All right. But yeah, this social media stuff's got them.
If you can't take the heat, don't jump into the fire.
Right. No, I mean, and that's the thing.
And I agree. And I agree. Yeah, they say, you know, this day and time, there's a lot more stuff out there, social media wise.
There's more scrutiny, and you know, I mean, you got to stand behind what you believe in and stuff. And a lot of these guys call me a conspiracy theorist or not, but you know, it's pretty obvious deals are getting cut behind closed doors, and they don't want to have anything on public record that should they be out of office or anything like that, you know, the lawsuits follow potentially, and they don't want to have to defend what's on record of what they're saying. So
well, I think you know, obviously we go back and look at what happened with the Planning Commission and see that was as blatant as you could get about
right.
Oh yeah, and that's wrong in front of everybody.
Yeah, deals being made and why they would do that, I don't know. Now, I will tell you how this works. I mean, I can tell you as a sitting commissioner, you know, you got to have two more to tango, as I say, just because it takes three to do anything.
Right.
So there's going to be consensus amongst commissioners on certain things. But now, do you talk to two of them at one time? No, you talk to one, then you talk to another. And that's how you keep everything legal, you know, from that standpoint.
Right.
I mean, in our old offices that we had down at the courthouse annex, we were all located in one big room with offices down there. They had a conference table in the middle, and I could be in there on the phone with somebody, and anybody else in there could hear exactly what I was saying.
Right.
You know, but what the Planning Commission did was just totally. Maybe they didn't think they were doing anything wrong, but that's not how you conduct business. And it's not to say that you can't have a consensus prior to things going into a meeting. Yes, I think you're going to have a consensus, whether it was done legally or or illegal. One thing I don't agree with, and what I don't like, and I never advocated this, and I'll go ahead and I'm not trying to change the subject. Let's get, for instance, the commission's got a budget retreat next month. Why go out of the county to hold a budget retreat? You get what I'm saying? They got a big enough room down there to do right there to where it makes it easy for the public to be there. And that's transparency. When I first got elected, they had a retreat scheduled up in Blairsville. And I didn't let the county pay my bills. I paid my own hotel bills, food, and everything on that trip. Then I came back. I told them we were not going out of the county, never out of the county again for a retreat.
Yeah, there's no need.
You need to make it. So we had them. We did hold them down at Lanier Islands, which is still in the county. People could come. But this budget process that they do now is something that's got to be changed too. We've got to get back to zero-based budgeting on every department.
Right.
You know, you don't need to, and what I mean by that is you don't take last year's budget and just tack on 3 or 4%.
Right.
Every department head and every elected official, whether it be clerk of court, tax commissioner, probate judge, everybody needs to come before the commission in an open budget hearing and present their budget.
Yeah, because each year is different.
And that's the way we used to do it. Now, you might not have every commissioner there. It was advertised that, you know, as to where all commissioners could be there, or 3 could be there, or some days it was just me and another one there. But it was about a 3 or 4 day process to hear everybody's budget and ask questions. Now, did we let the public get into discussion that much? No. But they, you know, if they wanted to ask a question, you know, we would let them ask a question. But that needs to be, we need to get back to that concerning the budget. It's got to be zero-based budgeting.
Yeah.
Your budget starts over every year.
Yeah, no doubt. And that would cut out a lot of this waste we're having too.
Well, I think right now we got some of our problem with the county is we got too many chiefs and not enough Indians.
Right.
I'm still trying to figure out in my mind, why do we need two assistant county managers?
Exactly.
I'm really trying to get grasp around that.
Well, as long as people keep paying their taxes,
I get it, but listen, just because you got it don't mean you got to spend it.
I know I agree with you 100%, but I think that's where the county commissioners and just government employees, I think, kind of, get on this little welfare program type situation that the money's always going to be there. What are people going to do? Not pay their taxes and lose their property? Like we got this unlimited resource. We got this unlimited tap of money.
But I can remember though, back when stuff went south in 2008, the decisions we had to make to furlough people 1 day a month.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? They didn't have to work, but we had to balance our budget. And that money was not coming in. So things had to be cut, but I think you've got to run a budget. You don't run your household budget based on what you think you're going to get next year.
Right.
And government's got to, that's just not on the county local level, that's state level, federal level, and everything. At that point, I think that, we never had never voted for a tax increase or had a tax increase the 8 years I was there. I can only remember one tax increase, which was done after Richard Higgins got elected first year, which he was chairman of the school board too, but they did a tax increase. I can't remember what they increased the mill to, but I'm going, well, you're not doing enough cutting. You're not doing enough of this. You're not doing enough of that. And you can't tell me in all these budgets, there's not somewhere to save money.
Yeah, no. Well, school board in particular, I'm just familiar with it. The county board of education, they pay $300,000 or $400,000 a year for storage and for Adams and them to destroy documents. Why don't you they got land, put a freaking big ass warehouse on it and store all your stuff there. You got all these, case in point, you could have that warehouse paid for in 2 years.
Well,
things like that. You got to be practical with what you have.
I think that, and that's what you've got to do this day. And really, to be honest with you, to be a commissioner, I think in what we're dealing with in Hall County and everything, I've come to the realization it was pretty much a full-time job when I was commissioner for 8 years, if you did your job properly, but I definitely feel like that it's a full-time job now.
Well, and that's what we get now. And the citizens feel like the commission don't respect them because they can't get emails returned. They can't get phone calls returned. They can't get any. If you're one of the few that does get a return email, it's a canned response, or you very rarely get a phone call or anything back. And I understand they can't, if they get 100 calls a day, they can't call everybody back.
Well, like I said, I've been gone for 16 years and I still get phone calls from people.
Right.
What can I do? How do I need to go about this? And you've got to be responsive. You have to be. Now, there can be a time to where some people could be just totally aggravating. You know what I'm saying? They're just messing with you.
Yeah.
And I think it's easy for you to realize that, but I think the average Joe Blow citizen out here, the average person that I would represent, deserve a phone call back from me on an issue.
Yeah.
I never allowed the county marshals or anybody to come up into my area of District 3 and start any trouble with anybody without me knowing about it. I wanted to know because I knew I was going to hear about it. Okay. So if there was a code issue or they were this, they knew directly to come to me and tell me, hey, we got a problem here. Because I wanted to know you know, what it was about before it ever started. And that way, when that person called me, I'd have an answer for them.
Right. And that's only fair. I mean, you know, and we've got to have more communication. It's like the other night, I'm not calling out Poole or Gibbs in particular, but I'm just saying it because they're the ones that brought it up when they have the open discussion on this new courthouse. They up there demanding that the citizens not get upset and be, you know, and be respectful. But at the same time, what have they done? Well, they don't listen to you. They don't understand the citizens' point of view when they feel like they're not being listened to.
I think as far as, you know, I'm going to be honest with you. I think you got to go back, and I think we really need to go back and look. Do we really need a new courthouse?
Exactly.
Is there not things that can't be done to utilize what we have? In this location that came out in the meeting the other day, just totally blew me away from the standpoint. I said, that is the craziest, stupidest site to put that courthouse over there where they're going to do it. It's a hole. It's going to be a big time problem. Storm management.
Who's the driving factor behind, so, you know, just from your experience, Steve, you know, you're on office, who's making these pushes to, hey, we need a new courthouse. Hey, we need a new courthouse. Hey, is it local developers? Is it the justice system?
No.
Or
when it gets to the courthouses, it's coming directly from the judicial system, I believe. And there was a study done 2 or 3 years ago that actually said the courthouse needed about an additional 28,000 additional feet. Okay. Well, there's courtrooms down in the old courthouse annex building where before we built this courthouse, there's 4 courtrooms down there. Are they utilizing that space down there for some of these courts that, you know, for instance, I think maybe under state court, I would say the state court has less than probably, if you look at their whole calendar, it's probably, I would say no more than 10% of what we call a jury trial in state court. These are people just coming to contest a ticket, do this, they're going to plead guilty, not guilty, you know, whatever. They may have a judge decide it or whatever. They should look at holding night court on a rotating basis. I can't see why they can't do that. You know, to add another metal detector and a couple of the sheriff's deputies to man that down at the other building, to me, is far more affordable than what they're looking at doing. And another thing is too, I'm just going to tell you right now, we bought the Liberty Mutual building when I was in office. My deceased wife worked for Liberty Mutual for 22 years. And when they got ready when they were moving out of Gainesville, the real estate company that was handling that for Liberty Mutual contacted me and wanted to know if the county would be interested in purchasing that building. Because we had just approved, or had been voted on approved, for $95 million worth of new county administration, which we needed a new building to try to get everybody into the same building, make it more efficient. So Commissioner Banks and I went down and took a tour with Phil Sutton, who was our assistant county administrator at the time, and looked over the building, which I was familiar with the building. We thought it would work, and we said, yeah, we'd be interested. Well, it was on the tax digest at about $11 or $12 million. The land at 38 acres in the building. But when they came back, and it was a no-brainer, let's put it this way, $6.2 million. Then they leased it back for a year for right at $500,000 because they tried to get the last 100 people out of the building. Probably, and I always envisioned that being a campus down there. Now, the sheriff's office, I don't feel like should have been built down there. It should have been built down at the jail.
Right.
Where when we bought the property and built the jail down there, there was already a pad down there for the sheriff's building. That's where they should have been located. That's where they should have located to, instead of up there.
Right.
But that's water under the bridge now. You're not going to change that. But the courthouse, the last courthouse that was built was, man, it caused a lot of, boy, there's some upset people. Really upset.
Yeah.
Man, I'm telling you. And I don't see this one going to be any different with the people. You know, you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They're going to be upset. I think David, the chairman's got the right approach as to what he wants to do and how it needs to be done and where it needs to go. Now, of course, the city, downtown Gainesville wants everything downtown, but there's nowhere to put something like that downtown anymore.
No.
That's not their worry. They're not the ones dealing with the traffic every day and having to drive through it and all that. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know how many people that actually even work for the city live in the city. You know, like they don't have to pay the taxes. They're not having to deal with this issue every single day.
I would say probably 70% of them live outside the city. At least.
Yeah.
Well, you got this nonsense going around. Oh, the people are upset because they won't be close to the food places. I mean, don't give me that.
Well, it's a 15. Okay, from where they're looking at putting a courthouse at right now, if you walk over to the square, you're 15 minutes. Okay. And I know there's been things said, well, if you put it out there where the Liberty Mutual building or where the government center is, where they're going to eat at? Well, you got to understand, you don't have 300 jurors sitting there in that court. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You may have a couple of jury trials going on in Superior Court. Well, they're going to bring in their food for them, you know?
I mean, if you're building a brand new courthouse, put a cafeteria in it. If
that's exactly that. You know what? And that has been suggested too.
Or even put a Chick-fil-A in there.
If you're really that concerned about where people are going to eat, and that's the reasoning behind your the location of where you want to put this in a already congested area of downtown Gainesville with no room to expand roads or anything like that anymore, put a cafeteria in it.
Yeah,
it's not rocket science.
I've had people say that. You know, when we bought the Liberty Mutual building, it had a fully functional cafeteria in it.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, they had a fully functional cafeteria in it. But, yes, do that. Oh, you can get people like Starbucks and Chick-fil-A will come in and set up a thing.
Yeah.
I mean, you go down to Piedmont's new hospital that I spent a lot of time at. Not for me, but some family. You go down to that new thing they built down at Piedmont, downtown Atlanta. Well, you go in there, there's a Panera Bread, there's a Starbucks, everything down in the lobby.
Right.
They actually lease space from the hospital to run those. So, yes, I think that's a pitiful excuse to have the courthouse downtown.
Right.
Yes.
But
that spot they're looking at, I'm telling you, it's a hope. Most of it is. And it's going to be a stormwater issue. Unbelievable. Then, of course, Gainesville, I looked on the records the other day, Gainesville has already purchased the corner adjacent to it for a parking deck.
Yeah.
Yeah, where the paint store and the carpet store and all that is.
Right. If they were this concerned about it, why didn't they just build it where the hell they built the big apartment complex? And Johnny's across the bridge to nowhere.
Well, actually, to be honest with you, it's funny you bring that up. That side over there where they say the bridge to nowhere went was originally Liberty Mutual's initial building in Gainesville when they first came here, before they tore all that down. Yeah, that would have been a perfect place for a courthouse. We just don't have the property. And now you're going to spend, I say, a minimum of $15 million acquiring all these properties. It's going to take another $20 million just to do the site work to get the courthouse before you ever start on the courthouse.
It's going to take 2 to 3 years to do eminent domain and get these people paid off anyway.
Well, some of these people's already contacted me and told me they're not selling. Period. I said, well, I hope it works out for you if they did determine to go that way. That was the last place I would have figured that they would have looked to put the courthouse in the downtown area. I never envisioned that area for that.
No, I figured The only other place they could do is get rid of, the Judge Kenyon's garden or whatever's out there between the courthouses, and maybe go up. I mean, that's the only other.
Well, one of the guys made a comment at the meeting the other night. Well, why aren't you looking at just going down there and taking that shopping center, Weaver Law Firm, and taking all that into downtown area and building there, and then you can just you could tie those two buildings together, the existing courthouse and everything. I think that if you're going to keep it downtown, that's going to be the better approach, I think. It
is, but it'll be $20 million to get that prime.
Yeah. See, and technically it's only $130 million allocated in this splosh. It's a tier 1 project. So it's going to get what I call the grease first. It's going to get the money first because it's a tier 1 project. But you're right. You're looking at a 2 or 3 year, I think minimum of a year before they could, if they proceeded with that site, before they could even start. I think there's better alternatives than what they're looking at downtown. Right?
So is this site set in stone, or is it still possible?
No, I heard there was 3 sites. One, of course, being the Liberty Mutual, well, the government complex, which there's plenty of room out there for a courthouse. They will have to build a parking deck out there.
So like realistically, that's the one that makes the most sense because you already own the land.
That's the cheapest. That is the cheapest alternative.
And it's
so what's the pushback against this, Steve? Like, what's the pushback against it? Because it makes the most sense.
Well, you're getting a pushback because I haven't heard anything. Maybe the judges don't want to drive that far. I don't know. I haven't talked to any of the judges yet.
Right.
I mean, I've talked to a couple of them about. Excuse me. I meant to turn that off.
Realistically, I could see that because I mean, you're having to come through downtown traffic just to get down to Brownsbridge. I could see that potentially being an
but it's about a 3-minute drive from Gainesville Jury to the government building. Really, about 3 minutes.
Okay.
Steady flow of traffic. Your biggest problem is that bottleneck right downtown Gainesville.
Well, I could see another issue being who's going to stay at the Marriott and the Ramada and all the hotels and occupy all the restaurants on the square if this courthouse comes all the way down on the other side of Brownsbridge instead of being in downtown. I'm being sarcastic. So.
Oh yeah,
I know you are. Yeah, but what I'm saying is, and actually, if you look at the government center's location, it's still in the city of Gainesville. And of course, Gainesville didn't like it when we bought that building. Oh, Danny Dunnigan was mad because I can't believe you moved out of downtown. Well, we really weren't in downtown. Most of us our departments were scattered all over the city.
Right.
But that's what that place was for. That's why it was bought like it was bought. Was to expand. And actually, to be honest with you, there is a drawing down there in that building that shows a mirror image of that building.
Yeah.
To the being built to the Brownsbridge roadside. It's a mirror image. There's already plans in existence down there that could be done. Right. But they are going to need a parking deck. Obviously, if they put the courthouse down there, but the parking deck's cheap compared to purchasing all these parcels of property.
Oh, you got that right.
Yeah.
And also the county don't need, in the city, the citizens don't need another huge parcel taken off the tax digest.
Yeah, and that's taking I think 11 or 12 parcels off of the tax digest. We got a lot of stuff that you look at everything the hospitals acquired.
Yeah.
That's come off of the tax digest. They bought out these doctors' buildings. These doctors. I mean, all that comes once a hospital obtains it and buys it. You take the Lone Street Clinic, for instance, where they just merged with a hospital. That's going to come off the tax digest.
Yeah.
What's the reasoning again behind the hospital getting tax-free property?
Yeah, it's just been something that's always done because they're a nonprofit.
They're considered a not-for-profit organization.
Not-for-profit organization. So
but they make crazy profits with what they're charging.
Well, to hear them talk, they don't.
Yeah, they got some good bookkeeping.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say the foundation does pretty good. I mean, as far as the hospital goes, they tell you they don't make anything. It always gets me when you got somebody that doesn't have insurance, goes to the hospital and gets treatment, and say it's a $50,000 charge that they want to charge them. But if you had insurance, the charge would have been $14,000.
Right.
And that's how the hospital technically can show they're not making any money.
Right.
Because if they were showing a write-off of $14,000 versus $50,000, those numbers could change considerably.
Drastically, yeah.
But you guys got to look at that whole area around the hospital. You got a hospital loans where Locos is.
Yeah.
Are they still paying tax on that? Who knows? You get what I'm saying? So a tremendous amount of property around that hospital. And I'm proud that we've got a hospital like we have. I mean, it's, a trauma center and everything. I mean, I'm proud of it. I think that we're going to see some good changes done with the new CEO, I hope. But there's been a lot of stuff taken off the tax digest.
Yeah, and we can't do that anymore. And even when Bernal expands, I mean, they get taken off the tax digest. I mean, we've just got too many big corporations that, big entities that keep expanding and taking money off the digest.
And I know the legislature's toyed with these same things we're talking about right now, as far as tax abatements, the not paying any taxes at all. I know they've looked for avenues as to make it to where, okay, your main hospital campus can't be taxed, but these outlaying doctor's offices and things that you own.
Absolutely.
Yeah, could be.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
But every time they bring that up, of course, you get hit by a lobbyist group that's,
you got that right.
Boom.
One
big
thing
money.
I want to circle back to is, I know this is in the city, but the new hotel that Jeff Payne's building out next to Crestwind,
Right.
I consider it basically in the county, because city limits is just right past there. I mean, that affects the county as much as it does the city. How in the world do we keep properties from being zoned a certain way for 35 years? And his whole argument was this hotel is going to be better than the 350 homes and 250 townhomes that was going to be.
I believe that. I'm not going to say it's going to be better. I'm going to say it's going to have less impact on the traffic and everything as compared to what was approved in there. That's a problem we have in the county right now. I was talking to the chairman about this and some months back, and he told me that we had over 10,000 approved partials that had been approved that nothing's ever started on them yet. Now, that's 10,000 partials.
Right.
Now, we're sitting here, and maybe we need to drop back and look at, okay, what's going to happen with these 10,000 partials with everything else we're approving also, you see,
Exactly.
where they've been approved at. I think we're going to have to put a time limit, especially in the county, as to
5 years, 10 years, or
yeah,
whatever.
5 years. You got 5 years. If you don't start it within 5 years, then it reverts back to the previous zoning that it was, whether AR agriculture or whatever it was. Plus, the fact is, another thing that gets me with this is, people up here save on their taxes. It has 10 acres or more, especially because of conservation use. They may have cattle on it and maybe growing hay. They could have chicken houses. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So they're under conservation use. Well, they got to keep that in that conservation. If they break that conservation, they got to pay all the back taxes too.
Right.
Okay. So like say they're in year 7 in the conservation, well, if they break that conservation, so they got to sell it and it's going to be developed. Do you know that these developers go out and buy this property, get it rezoned, and the conservation use doesn't change until they actually start construction?
Ooh.
So
That's
you follow,
crazy.
you take that first thing, it was rezoned off of Cagle Mill Road over there, that first 100-acre tract that got done back before the one before this one with the law. This one, I think this last one still got a lawsuit pending on it, I think. But it's still under conservation. In other words, those people are sitting there on that, had it rezoned, and it's still under conservation because they decided not to break ground. We see that's another thing. I don't think you ought to be able to stay once you have it rezoned. It needs to come out of that conservation.
Right.
But we've got 10,000. I don't know how big these. I don't know. It'd take days to go back and research. The staff would just have to do me a map and show me. I want to see where these 10,000 parcels are at that's been approved already and what their zonings are.
Yeah, I mean that seems like a ton, but I mean if it's on the books, it's on the books.
Well, I'm sure that a lot of it's down in the South Hall area. You know what I'm saying? I know there's some in North Hall on the 365 side up there next to Lula, you know, on 52. That was rezoned business type stuff ages ago. But we just got a lot of things wrong. I mean, that's things that I really didn't pay close attention to before. I'm going to pay real close attention to them this time if I'm elected. We got to change some things.
Well, and one thing that I want to get to before we get out of here, say the 30-year development plan, 50-year development plan. How are they even able to develop something? I think Corey or Tyler one had the numbers when they were on. You got 77,000 property owners in this town, single property owners. And you got all the other people, but only 2,000 of the people were even polled or talked to or what. That's less than 1% of what how do you come up with a plan when you can't get the public involved?
Well, I'm sure that it, for transparency wise, these meetings to adopt this plan were publicized. Citizens had a right to go. Certain citizens went, I'm sure. But the problem is you don't make it easy. They hold these things at the damnedest times. Okay, we're going to do this. We're going to do this on Tuesday at 2:00.
Yeah,
but
come on.
Stuff like that needs to be done after 5 p.m. or 6 p.m. in the evenings, and very well publicized. To get actual input. Yeah. I don't know. I don't really know the people that was on this steering committee. I haven't went back and looked. I've got a good idea of some of the people that might have been on it. But it's just not the plan is messed up. It's going to throw us into, with what they've got in there, especially on the density on the housing, can really cause bad problems. I mean, we could be looking at 365 looking like 285 rush hour traffic.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
And I think we're seeing a lot of that now, especially on the south end of 985, because of all the development in South Hall. South Hall is almost beyond repair. Try to get it straightened out. You could get it straightened out.
What I like in 365 too is going to end up another Peachtree Industrial Boulevard. Exactly. What
yes. Yes.
Yeah. Just like that. I mean, it's terrible. And the problem is, like you said, I wouldn't be opposed to them having it on a Saturday. I mean, and I understand it's a pain in the ass to mess up your weekend, but if you're an elected official, you agreed to do all this stuff, you should make it convenient for the everyday people.
Exactly. And I don't know who off the commission probably served on that panel. I'm sure all the commissioners had every right to be there to voice their opinions under the UDC code. I was always allowed to voice my opinions when looking at it and how I felt about it. And the commissioner's job, they are the elected officials of this county.
Right.
They're the ones that are elected to run this county and be transparent, spend the least amount of money as possible, to keep taxes down, but get the right kind of growth that we do need.
Right.
You can't delegate that for staff decisions.
No.
You understand?
Exactly.
And staff's got to understand who they work for, which is that board.
Right.
And all these other boards that are appointed by that board need to realize that they have a fiduciary and transparency issues to deal with too.
Right.
You know,
And
because
without
you're trusting these people to do the right thing. I mean, you
Right.
know, we get back to the issue with the planning and zoning board. Well, those appointments need to be reaffirmed, in my opinion, every year. In other words, Chris, I've got you on the planning and zoning board. Say I appoint you. Well, you and I just aren't jihiving on how we feel about things. Well, January 1st, I'm going to remove you. You
Right.
understand? I think I ought to have the right to do that.
And you should.
I mean, my planning commissioner, it was my appointee, and he stayed on for 8 years, but he and I conversed. We talked about everything. Everything that was coming through in this district, we talked about it.
Right.
And I don't think that's what we're seeing a lot of right now. Well, we're seeing it in some cases, but other cases we weren't seeing it with the planning commission. Now, I think it's very important that we get this planning commission reinstated and back up and running ASAP, and I'll tell you why. I tend to agree that not holding these 2 public hearings, one was through the planning commission and one through the board of commissioners. The board of commissioners only holding 1 hearing now. These people still need 2 public hearings to be able to come to voice their opinions. Now, whether you do it at a work session, you know, prior to the meeting that week, there needs to be 2 public hearings held. If they don't want to reinstate the planning commission, I don't think anything says they have to have one, but they need to get into the routine of holding 2 public hearings on these zoning issues. Now, some of the stuff that's being heard at the commission meetings, I think this needs to go away. They ought to be administrative decisions. And I mean, that's staff decisions. I'm talking about these setbacks.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff. Okay. If the staff denies them, they have a right to appeal to the board of commissioners to, you know, have it heard. But some of that, I feel like some of the stuff that I've seen in the meetings is really a waste of time.
It is. I mean, like the other night, it added 45 minutes.
Yeah.
Because of setback.
I noticed that too. And I'm going, these are some of these things are just no brainers, especially in the hardship cases, you know.
Yeah.
But I think that there's ways to make the meetings flow better than what they flow. People are going to get mad. Let me tell you something, man. People are going to get mad. They got to respect each other. And that's like I'm saying, you know, we got the groups out here and we got 2 groups that are very vocal in this county. And do they do a bad job of what they're doing? No, I think they've opened a lot of eyes as to things that are going on, you know. Some
That's
things
always a good thing, you know.
And some things aren't going to be fixed overnight, you know. But one thing I do want to tell you, I mean, when my page came up, and I haven't answered these questions yet, I had a certain individual ask me, what would I do differently? What would be the 3 things I'd want to do? So I think I pretty well went over that with y'all today on the podcast. And I want to answer 2 more questions. I am not, or ever have been, a real estate agent. I have not and never have been a land developer. Okay? I have never had a BUI or a DUI. Okay? I have only had 1 moving violation in all my days of driving. Okay? 51 years or 54 years, something like that. I got a ticket downtown Atlanta. I was going down to meet with the governor. And I got a ticket in downtown Atlanta for making an illegal right-hand turn between 8 and 11 in the morning. And that was the only ticket I ever got. And did I get that ticket took care of? I walked right in there and I handed it to the governor.
Right.
Can you fix this? You know, the sign was 60 feet up in the air. And I turned and there's the blue lights. So that's the only moving violation I've ever had in my life. I've never had an accident that was my fault. So I just want to clarify that on this podcast that I'm not perfect. Wouldn't claim to be. That person don't live on this earth anymore. But we can do a better job as a government. You know, there's got to be more transparency in what's going on right now. I mean, you know, and you got to understand, people are going to get upset.
Yeah.
Look how many people got upset about the data center. And I'm sitting here going, well, really, what are they getting upset about? Is it just not in my backyard scenario? You know?
Yeah.
And another mistake they made too, I mean, I understand the moratorium they got going on. They're trying to get a grasp on this high density growth. And I think they need to get a grasp. Okay, then they added the moratorium on data centers, which it was publicized. You know what I'm saying? It was publicized to do that. But then they added the ICE detention center to and that was illegal, in my opinion, because it was not publicized. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's to be on the agenda, because they didn't allow any time for people to speak for and against that. You know, it wasn't allowed in that scenario.
You got to add it to the agenda like 24 hours before the meeting. Or whatever.
They didn't do that. So I think the thing they did with the ICE Center, to me, wouldn't, if a good lawyer got a hold of that, that'd get thrown. It could throw out the whole moratorium that they did. But I'm sitting here in my right mind. We got 2 staff lawyers, and I'm trying to figure out why we have 2 lawyers on staff. And not a one of them could raise their hand and go, point of order, Mr. Chairman. We really can't do that.
Right. And that's because we got, in my opinion, it's because we got too many commissioners that are been there so long that those people are intimidated. They, you know, they're not doing their job. They don't want to rankle the feather. Yeah,
I mean, you know, part of your job as a commissioner is you're going to ruffle some feathers.
Yeah.
I mean, you're going to ruffle some feathers. I ruffled a lot of feathers in there the 2 terms I was in there before. I mean, I've made people mad. I've made people happy.
Well, and one thing the people has got to say too, look, I'm all for speaking out and keeping growth under control, but at the same time, as a commissioner, your hands are tied as long as they follow the UDC and the land use plan.
Well, there's certain things I think, yes, definitely. Can anything be denied? Yes.
Yeah.
Anything can be denied for any given reason, really, to be honest with you. I could deny all these. I could deny all this high density housing up 365, say, hey, we don't have sewer capacity. I could just say, we don't have sewer capacity, so no, I'm not going to allow it. You know? Doesn't matter whether we do or not. I'm just going to say, we don't have the sewer capacity. So, and I don't think we have the sewer capacity.
Right. Well, you don't.
I mean, I really don't think we do. I mean, we need to stick with the original plans for that corridor. And the original plans for that corridor was not residential development.
Right.
And everything was supposed to say south of the railroad tracks going up through there. And everything was supposed to have direct right off of 365, which they'll get. You know, there's cuts up through there where they've already, you know, there's cuts up 365. You can see them on the side of the road, you know, where they know that that's going to be, you know. But I think Greg's got especially the last 6 months, has done a real good job trying to control what's happening. He just hasn't really had any help controlling.
Yeah, no, he felt outnumbered, and I get it. I know why he's frustrated.
And I guess I'm trying to figure out why any other commissioners would have an issue with what he's trying to go with. I mean, I guess, you know, what's driving that?
Yeah.
You get what
district, he knows what's best for his people.
Right. I mean, I'm not going to walk over there and tell Billy Powell that you need to do this in your district for your people. I mean,
even though y'all's districts butt up against each other, split by Thompson Bridge Road for most.
Right. Yeah, we're split If you go out Thompson Bridge Road to the Lumpkin County line, he's on the left-hand side and I'm the right-hand side.
Right.
He's got that little pod in there down to Wahoo Creek where the Kroger and all that's located.
Right. Oh, Viral had to leave and go to a doctor's appointment. But
That's fine.
yeah, but we'll
I just want people to understand. I have the experience. I know where to look. I've done it before. I know where to look in the trenches for things. And this commission, I think, could end up coming to some kind of conclusion of we got to work together.
right.
And we got to respect each other. We got to respect.
Well, as of
each
right
other.
now, you can see the tension in the group. I mean,
It's there. Yeah, it's
you
so
don't
much.
communicate.
It's so much.
When they deny stuff, they don't say why they denied it. They just, they don't say why they're for it. There's no discussion. I mean, I don't know what they do in the work sessions. I mean, executive sessions behind the scenes, but when they come out to the public, they don't. We're in the dark still.
Yeah, I mean, the executive sessions, I used to walk out of those all the time. They had I knew if we were going in there on something, but if it got to where it was going in that executive session to where we got discussing something that I didn't feel like should be a part of executive session, they had an affidavit I'd sign and just leave.
Right.
I'd tell them before that way I didn't know what they said or what they talked about. I'd just get up and sign my little affidavit and leave.
Well,
there's too much advantage. I think there's too much. They take too much advantage of utilizing those executive sessions for things that shouldn't be, my opinion, under executive session.
Right.
I can understand terminating an employee or doing something like that, or making a decision like that. I could understand land acquisition or what you may be looking at potentially. But some of the stuff even in there, I think even from what you're discussing legally, what they say is a legal matter, I'm not so sure that should be part of executive session.
Right. Yeah, no doubt.
And that gets back to a more transparency issue, with people. Don't hide anything from them that you don't need to.
And that's where the people, the last 15 years or so, 10, 15 years, that's where the people's gotten disheartened because they don't feel like nobody's being transparent.
I think what it boils down to is that there's only a small percentage of the people getting listened to.
Right.
And I pretty much know how a lot of people feel about a lot of things in this district. I know there's things they want that they'd like to see in this district. I know there's things they definitely don't want to see in this district. That I do know. You're not going to keep it. It's going to change over time anyway.
Yeah, no, you can't stop it.
But you can control it to some extent on what you are allowing.
Yeah, that's the key is the growth's going to happen. That's how you control it and how you manage it.
Right. And I think that North Hall and East Hall, a lot of people say, well, there's no comparison to East Hall and North Hall. Yeah, there is.
Yeah, there is.
There's a lot of comparison. But I just feel like they're kind of getting a short end of the stick over there right now with what's happening over there, with what the board's approved and what they've done.
It is, yeah. It's always been that way. They always treated North Hall and East Hall as the stepchild, per se.
Yeah, we have the largest area on the commission, nearly half the county.
Right.
And it's 60 miles if you start all the way down at the Jackson County line. Drove around to the other end up here all the way because you abut Jackson County, Habersham County, White County, Lumpkin County. See, we're abutting all these counties, and you got to have somewhat of a relationship with those. I've got 3 municipalities in my district, and I care what they think.
Oh yeah. And they've all got different needs and wants. I mean,
I'm
Lula's
not
different
going
than
to, I'm
Clearmont.
not going to sit there and make a decision that's going to have a direct impact on a municipality. You know,
Right.
I'm just, not without talking to them about it.
Yeah, you can't, or you shouldn't.
No, but I always had a good working relationship with the municipalities because I came out of a, elected official out of a municipal background here in Clermont, where I was a council member, mayor. So, I understand how their governments work too. And you take these three little municipalities I have in my district, which is Clermont and Gillsville and Lula. They don't even have a city tax.
Right.
They live within their means.
Right.
And I'm so proud that they do justice to their citizens. Now, I'm not saying that there's not some crap every now and then.
Right. Yeah.
Stuff going on all the time, but I think that it's just not one thing that's affecting the county. It's a conglomeration of a lot of things that need to be looked at and worked on.
It is, and a lot of it got out of control under Higgins, and I hate it. But we're here at the point to where it's got to be corrected, and getting a new person in the seat between you and I know you and Tyler's got a lot of the same views on how you would proceed in the growth with the county and what you view for District 3. Shannon, nobody knows much. You know what he says, but he hadn't been out and about a lot, giving a lot of his views. And, but.
Well, it's just not the growth issue. It's a lot of issues. Right. I'm talking about from the budget to your staff. There's just a lot of issues. I mean, when I got elected the first time, we had a department down there that worked under the marshal's office. All they did was check soil erosion. It was a $2 million a year budget. And I said, this is the biggest waste of money. Within 6 months, we changed those positions. In other words, we didn't add, we got rid of some personnel, of course, but we let the building inspectors get certified in soil erosion. That way they could check silt fencing around individual houses.
Right.
And we had the county engineering department people get certified so they could check the commercial sites, which they should have been doing in the first place. I didn't need gun-toting people out there griping with somebody because somebody dug a hole in their yard.
Right. Yeah, that makes common sense.
And so it took 6 months I actually called them the dirt police. And I know it was a big deal. Everybody was worried about soil erosion in the lake and everything, but this wasn't around the lake.
Right.
I mean, this was all over the county.
Yeah.
And I said, that's just a budget we don't need and people we don't need to do that. So we did keep 5 out of 21. We kept 5 people just for code enforcement, county marshal code enforcement.
Well, and there's got to be more trimming on that stuff. There's so many. I mean, and I know whoever gets elected is going to have to deal with replacing Zach Probst probably, maybe, if they extend it out that long, And if they do their due diligence, it's going to take 6 months or so to replace them because they need to at least extend, my opinion, they need to let the assistant take over through the end of the year and then elect a new one coming in at the fiscal year.
Yeah, I don't think they ought to make a move on that. I don't think they ought to make a decision on that until after the elections.
Yeah,
I mean, really. I've known Zach since he was a little boy, and I hate it for him. But transparency also starts in those positions. Also, do you understand? And you've got to be able to trust the people that's working for you. You got to be able to trust that they're being transparent and that they're talking to everybody.
Right.
To me, it was a big surprise that he just up and resigned. We probably never will know why. I'm sure there was some kind of underlying something going on there that drove that. And I'm sure the full board discussed that situation in, an executive session, and that's where they discussed it at. It's very hard. It's not an easy job to be county administrator. I can tell you that right now. I don't think it would be very easy because you're trying to take care of personnel and departments, and you're also having to deal with 5 elected officials. And as long as you stay transparent in that job and you do a good job, it could be a very rewarding career.
Right.
From the standpoint of that. I mean, but they work on, basically, just be honest with you. If they don't like you, the board don't like you, they don't like you.
Right.
Don't matter what your contract says or whatever.
Exactly.
And I'm sure something happened or went on that made that decision, may have hit, or maybe he just fed up. I don't know.
Well, with all the planning commission and all that, and all that.
Oh, yeah.
Change over and all the.
That's probably the biggest embarrassment that, honestly, that we have probably. Well, other than, what's going on with our sheriff, God, I'm hoping he gets the help he needs.
I do too,
But that planning commission fiasco, then for them to turn around and sue the county for their jobs back. And I'm going,
they're going to spend $100,000 for a $14,000 a year job. I mean, that still blows my mind.
Well, yeah, that makes you wonder. It makes you wonder why they felt like they needed that.
Exactly.
Why would you want to be? First off, why would you want to be sitting there getting ridiculed? And I think it was quite obviously they knew they were breaking the law.
Oh yeah.
And I think the tapes proved the other stuff. And by the testimony, I didn't like the way the county commission decided to hold. And I know that probably Greg and David had nothing to do with this decision, but that special hearing they had should have been televised just like the rest of their meetings.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
And I do agree with Greg. Anything that goes on in that commission room needs to be out there to where people can watch.
Right. Yep. And and the thing is, and what's the scary is, even Braswell and Stan Hunt both testified it's been going on. Those meetings been going on as long as they've been there. Braswell's been on that commission 18 years.
Well, I never knew. Well, I can assure you, I don't think none of that went on back when Don Smallwood was chairman of the. I can guarantee you none of that went on back when he was chairman for so many years on the planning commission. No, he would never have allowed that, and I never knew of anything like that going on. With my appointee. Now, not to say that 2 planning commissioners, they can talk to each other.
Oh yeah.
I think the thing get me how this was done. If you're going to do that, why don't you just go to Waffle House?
Yeah.
Where nobody knew you.
Go order your breakfast.
I'm not telling them to cheat and break the law, but what I'm saying is you were involving staff, and that's that's a no-no.
And then the staff telling you it's illegal.
Right.
And you still going on with it,
Yeah. And I'm sure that there's other planning commissioners that are not on the board now that partake in some of that stuff.
Right.
Also. But that's a big no-no.
Yeah. And I don't see where they're going to get, what do they think is going to come out of it when they start doing depositions and they get everybody? And
I'll just be honest with you. I can't see it getting that far.
I wouldn't think so.
I can't believe a judge would let their lawsuit carry on.
I know. And I think that may be why the judge has still not released a finding in Jody's case. It's supposed to release by the end of that week.
Yeah. I mean, I think that
he still hadn't released his ruling yet.
Yeah. And I think that, anybody could look at that and go, yeah, I mean, what are y'all arguing about? They terminated you because you violated your oath of office and your ethics.
Yeah.
That's why you terminated.
It's clean cut. I mean, they done had the investigation. It's over with.
And why? I mean, I don't know how much more they could investigate it.
I know.
I mean, I don't know why holding depositions and things is going to do anybody any good when you're going to hear the same thing that you've already heard from the same people.
The only thing you might hear be is if some of the staff that's left or some current staff maybe want to talk now on the record, but that'd be it. I mean, and it's not going to add anything to the punishment or anything. I
mean, people always said that, Zach knew it was going on, but there's no proof to there's no proof to say that Zach knew it was going on. I would have hoped if he knew it was going on that he would have brought it to the commissioners or at least to the chairman's instead of the way the chairman found out about all this.
And if you figure if he was doing his job, he would have known what was going on. He's got to be aware of everything that's in that building.
Well, I would think that surely those people that were involved in that, the plant staff, do work for him. You would hope that they would have said something.
Yeah, no doubt.
So I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of ifs here. You know what I'm saying? And
there is, and it's and we may never find out. We might.
And I don't know, but maybe 5 or 6 or 7 people that even know the answers to these questions. So,
well, all right. Before we get off here, anything else you want to say? And
I really do appreciate the time with y'all today.
Yeah,
you can't cover everything, but
no, you can't.
But just to the point is that I want people to understand that I've been there and I've done this before. It's a lot of work. I mean, it's a lot of work. You've got to research everything. You got to do everything. I think I got a leg up on the other 2 guys that I'm running against, simply just standpoint that I've already done it. I'm not going to be under a learning curve, with this. And I'm not going to make everybody happy. And I'm not going to make everybody mad.
No, you can't make everybody. And that's one thing that hurt Gibbs and Poole is the other 3. They took advantage of their their being new and being naive and not knowing all the codes and the laws, which you can't expect them to. And they took advantage of that the first couple of years.
What you got to do is sometimes you got to, you hate to do it, but you got to go after them in a public meeting. Don't do it behind closed doors. Do it to where everybody can hear it. If you got something to say about it, tell them in public.
Yeah. Well, it don't do no good to raise sand after the vote's been taken.
No. But I would be wanting a lot of answers as to why they felt like, I would be asking each one of them, okay, why did you feel like that I didn't know what was best for my district? You explain to me what I'm missing here.
Right.
That's what I would tell them in an open meeting.
Exactly. Especially if they don't take the time to go out and look at a development or look at a property or
Yeah.
So you got what coming up? You got the GOP event this Saturday.
GOP this Saturday. Then Jody White's doing a thing at the Civic Center on the 25th.
Right.
So that's the two events. I don't think this Saturday with the GOP. Of course I'm going to go. But I think they've only allotted like 20 minutes, for the Commission 3 site. So I don't know what they're really going to get into, what they can even ask in 20 minutes and get answers to or whatever. I feel like that Jody's day is going to be what I call a real old-timey hoedown debate.
Well, that's what. Well, and when we all helped to put it together and we got everything going, that's what we were looking for.
Yeah.
We didn't want the political parties involved trying to dictate everything. We wanted this to be a good old fashioned.
Well, the first time I ran for this seat back in 2001, we actually had one of those good old timey debates over at North Hall High School.
Right.
It was put on by the community. Big crowd was there too. Big crowd was there.
Well, and that's what Jody's worried about. She said, I'm afraid that everybody talking to me that they may run out of the Civic Center. They might have to move. We might have to move rooms or something, because a lot of people's interested in this thing. I think it's going to be be a pretty good turnout.
Yeah, it should be.
And the good thing about it is 2 days before early voting starts.
Yeah, and it's just local races too.
Yeah, no state, no nothing.
No state or anything like that. It's all local races, and I think that you'll have the candidates there from the DA's office, and then you'll have the candidates from the solicitor's office. I don't know. Well, a couple of people had not responded that they're not going to be there. I think that what I understand from looking at who's responded so far is just Tyler and I are going to be there from District 3.
Well, Gina's going to be there too.
Yeah, Gina's going to be there. Yeah, but I'm talking about that. As far as she's going to be there. So that's all.
Yeah, Shannon didn't. Shannon just said no. He turned it down, and then Inez Grant was going to come for solicitor. She had 2 other engagements, I believe.
Yeah,
she just couldn't fit it in. But most of the people are coming. So it should be a very informative.
Well, I'm looking forward to it.
Me too. You got any?
But I want to thank y'all for having me on the podcast. I hope I answered a lot of people's questions today. About me and what I am and everything. Sometimes somebody told me the other day, said, "You've lost your mind." And I said, well, sometimes you got to watch what you wish for sometimes, You
got that right.
But it's going to be definitely, regardless of who takes this seat, there's going to be a lot of things got to be done.
Yeah. And it's not going to be for the weary. I mean, I don't think a lot of these, it's good to get new people running. And don't get me wrong, we got to have them in there, new blood coming in. But they just need to understand what all it entails. And I think they do, for the most part, the ones we've talked to. Because you don't want them getting in there, and we end up with just more of the same.
Yeah, definitely. I don't want this. I don't want more of the same of what we got right now.
Yeah. All right, Steve. Well, I appreciate it. And
I appreciate y'all.
And if it goes to a runoff, which very well could with this many people running,
right.
You got 4 people. If Gina qualify,
Yeah, she's got a. Yeah, Gina's got this thing, our race could go on till November if Gina qualifies. She's got a pretty hard road, I think, to get. She'll probably get them, but it's not going to be easy.
No, and she's, she got to have it done by August 1st, I think, or early August.
Well, and I'll speak a little bit to her. I wish she just went ahead and, if she's a Republican, just went ahead and ran as a Republican. I do agree with her to a certain standpoint that we don't make many decisions on the commission that's partisan,
right?
Whether you're Democrat or Republican. But I think what you do is you let people know how you do feel about things.
Right.
I'm not going to vote for a tax increase.
Right.
That I'm not going to do that. Well, my point in case is if you're Republican, run as a Republican. If you're a Democrat, run as a Democrat. I know there's independents that run all the time out there. But it's going to be interesting.
It will. It will. And
of course, you got to understand that I would think that the other 2 candidates that are qualified under the Republican, party here will definitely get behind ever who prevails if she does get the signatures.
Yeah, you'd hope so.
They'll be pushing their support to that individual, such as I would do also.
Right. Yeah. So that's the way we hope it goes. So, well, I appreciate your time. And we'll be in touch.
All right, man.
All right. Thanks.
All right. Bye.
All right. Bye.